Welcome to another video. Now, if you're going to be one of those people who are going to say, this video does not make any sense, why would you make this comparison? Listen, I got a favor to ask you. I need you to head outside your door. I need you to find the smallest patch of grass, and I need you to hold on to that grass and just keep holding on to it for about 10 minutes. And I hope that you feel better. And for those of us who would like to be entertained, please keep watching. Welcome to another video, guys. Today we're going to be comparing the Fuji GFX 50R to the Nikon ZF. So let's talk about why I'm making this comparison in the first place. Truthfully speaking, I've owned the Fujifilm GFX for the last year and it has been amazing for me. I've used it on all my professional shoots and I've been wondering, should I be using my Nikon ZF that I love so dearly as my main professional camera? Now, I took it on a few different shoots in this past 2 months, and I've come back with some conclusions, so let's get into this video. Let's talk about specs for a few seconds. The very first thing you should know about the Fujifilm GFX 50R is that it was released back in 2018, so by all intents and purposes, this comparison is not fair. It's a very old camera. So, it has got a 50 megapixel medium format sensor. Now, this is not the same medium format as 120 film from back in the day. This medium format is about 70 to 80% larger than full frame, and it's considered medium format. Anyways, it has also got a 117-point contrast detection system, which we will talk about when we get to the autofocus system. It shoots up to 5 frames per second. It does shoot video in 1080p, but no one's ever going to use this camera for video, at least they shouldn't. It's got dual card slots and it has the X Processor Pro. Switching over to Nikon ZF, this one's got a 24 megapixel full frame sensor and the colors that come out of this sensor are just beautiful. It can shoot up to 30 frames per second in RAW photos. It shoots downsampled 4K video and it can even shoot up to 4K 60 with a crop. It has internal 10-bit and N-Log. It also has dual card slots and it's got the wonderful X-Speed 7 processor, which is the same processor that's found in the flagship Nikon Z8 and Z9 cameras. And so the autofocus system in this camera is fantastic, but we'll dive more into it when we get to the autofocus section. Let's start off by talking about body and handling. So when you look at the body of these two cameras, you would first notice that yes, they're both retro-styled cameras, but they couldn't be any more different. Starting off with the Fujifilm GFX camera, it is a rangefinder styled camera that kind of mimics the Leica M's, but it's not a true rangefinder, it's a digital rangefinder. So it is very big and chunky because it's got a massive sensor, it's got big lenses, and despite its size and weight, it is actually very comfortable to hold. And that's because of two things. First of all, it's got a ever so subtle grip over here, but most importantly, it's got this indent at the back, which allows your thumb to have a place to grasp onto. So the feel of this camera is great in my opinion, despite the large and heavy size. Now, let's compare it to the Nikon ZF. The Nikon ZF is a lot smaller, and you would think it would be easier to hold, but it isn't. I've said this in my past few videos, but the ergonomics on this camera are horrible. While I love this camera a lot, it's just not easy to hold in the hand. I've had to purchase this additional small rig grip that allows me to get a little bit more grip for my fingers, but because it doesn't have that indent at the back like the GFX camera, it is not very comfortable to hold. So if somebody wants to make a lot of money, I recommend they create a hot shoe mount that has a thumb grip to allow you to better hold this camera, and it'll be a real winner. You're welcome. The last thing I should mention about the Nikon is despite its size, it is actually quite heavy, right? It's a lot smaller than the GFX, but it feels just as heavy as the GFX, and every person that has picked up this camera has been thrown off by the fact that it's quite heavy. So combined with the terrible grip and the heavy size, it's just not the most ergonomic camera, but you know, you can't win them all. It's okay, it's fine. Style do work here, it's fine. An important category for modern cameras is autofocus systems, so let's talk about it. When it comes to these two cameras, there's no comparison. The truth of the matter is, the GFX uses a contrast-based autofocus system versus the Nikon that uses a phase detection autofocus system. I'm not going to go all nerd out, but phase detect is always going to be better than contrast detect. So the Nikon is always going to be much better than the Fujifilm GFX. Coupled with the fact that the Nikon has the X-Speed 7 processor of their flagship cameras, the autofocus system is wonderful. Its decision making is great, it's super fast, and it's super accurate. So if you're looking to see which camera is going to get the subject every time, it's going to be the Nikon. Let's talk about the GFX. Yes, it's slow. Is it a deal breaker? No. I went into this camera decision knowing that the GFX was going to be very slow. However, for what I shoot, it's perfect enough. I shoot portraits in studio and out of the studio, and my subjects are never moving at a fast pace. And so the contrast detect system in the GFX is fast enough for me because it's much faster than manually focusing. So it's still a win for me. So at the end of the day, if you're shooting more still life than fast movement, the GFX is going to be more than adequate. If you want fast movement, you're obviously going to have to go with the Nikon in this comparison. Let's move on. Let's talk about lenses. Both Fujifilm and Nikon have multiple mounts. If you think about Nikon's F mount that has been in existence for over 50 years, the F mount is fully fleshed out. It's got lots of lenses. However, when it comes to the Z mount, 99% of you will be taken care of because there are enough lenses in existence right now to take care of most of your needs. It's only the extreme things like architecture where you need super straight lines with tilt shifts and wildlife or sports shooters who need big telephoto lenses. While there are some options, there isn't a full system of those types of lenses just yet, so the Z mount is still in its infancy. Same thing with the Fuji GFX mount. While Fuji has the X mount that has a lot of beautiful lenses, with the GF mount, they do not have enough lenses. Yes, for 99% of you, there are lenses that already exist that will fulfill your needs, but it's not a fully fledged system. So in regards to lenses, both systems, I would say it's a tie. Let's talk about the most important category in this system, and in my opinion, that category is image quality. Nobody buys a medium format camera for its speed. Most people buy medium format because they want the ultimate quality. And the quality that's coming out of the Fuji GFX is just chef's kiss. Listen, despite its limitations, when you see the files that come out of the GFX, it makes everything worth it. And that is why I picked up this camera a year ago. Yes, the Nikon system has beautiful colors. Yes, I did say in my last video that I loved the image quality coming out of the Nikon. But you can't beat physics. In this case, not only does Fujifilm have a long history of making cameras and film with beautiful colors, but medium format sensors will objectively give you better image quality than full frame sensors because the photo sites are larger, which means that they can gather more light. And so there is more dynamic range in those files, and there is more flexibility in the files. With that said, yes, you can match up these files quite easily, and I've done that in this video. However, if you were to give me no option and I could only go with one system, I am going to pick the GFX every single time for image quality because the files coming out of this are so great. The auto white balance on this GFX camera is extremely good, and it gets me 99% of the way that I need to go whenever I shoot with this camera. I barely have to touch the files because they are almost where I want them to be. Nikon is just a step or two behind. They're really good, but they're a step or two behind. The Fujifilm GFX files are great, as they should be. So let's conclude this video. When we talk about specs, listen, you're comparing a 2023 camera to a 2018 camera. It's just not fair. The Nikon ZF on paper is a better camera in every single way. However, in my comparison, when it comes to body and handling, I would give it to the GFX because it is big, but its size is molded well to make it comfortable for you to hold compared to the Nikon. When it comes to the autofocus system, Nikon simply wins because fade detection is better than contrast detection. When it comes to lens selection, it is a tie. Finally, when it comes to the most important category for me, which is image quality, the Fuji GFX simply wins. Their color science is better, and mind you, I'm referring to the medium format Fujifilm color science, which in my opinion is very different from the color science in their X-mount APS-C cameras. The color science on the medium format side is wonderful, much better than Nikon in my opinion. Coupled with the amazing glass and the ergonomics of the body, Fujifilm hands down wins it for me. So, moving forward, which camera am I going to take? Well, obviously, I'm still going to use the medium format GFX 50R as my main shooter for professional work. However, the Nikon is not going to be sitting on the bench. I am still going to take that camera with me on professional jobs because it is the perfect B camera. The fact that I can match the files so easily, I love using it for those scenarios in which I need fast moving action and whatnot. Subscribe, like this video, have whatever discussion you want below, and happy holidays. More videos to come. The next video is going to be very exciting. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day. To say that I am frustrated is an understatement. Recorded this entire video 2 times and the audio did not record.